Hello family and friends, good evening. Today guys, I want to talk about one thing, and it will be into three different categories. So today I'm going to talk about farm planning, and in the farm planning I'm going to deal with poultry farm planning, to be specific. And in this poultry farm planning, we are going to look into three major regions that we have to tackle. And if poultry farming has been your passion, this is the video that you'll have to follow, and you have to be careful not to miss every part of it. So what about planning? What is it that people talk about it every time when it comes to planning, when it comes to farm setting and setup? So farm planning actually, it's what determines the success of your farm, because when you plan your farm poorly, you will also be struggling with everything. But if you plan your farm so well and from the very beginning, then I guarantee you that you will have some success. And the rest of the things which comes after planning is to be constant. So what do we have to start with? First of all, when you know what you want to plan about, that it is a farm and it is a poultry farm, then you'll have to do the first thing first. You have to select the site. So where do you select which should the type of farm that you want to build? So when you come to site selection in the farm or in a poultry farm, you'll have to consider some few things before you say, this land is now okay. Assuming you just have your money and you want to buy land for farming or to start your poultry farm, what type of land will you look for? What are the things that you will have to find in this land, or what will be your determinants before you pull your money to pay for this land? Okay, so that is what we are going to look for. Okay, now in site selection, I assume that you have your money ready. I assume that you have your money that you will use to do all these things, because without your being financially prepared, it's actually not good to start something when you know you can't handle it. So you have to accumulate some money before you start even thinking of which side will you select for your poultry farm. So we are going to start with site selection. What are the things that you have to consider when you are going to start a poultry farm and you were planning to buy land? So the first thing, it is the land itself, okay? And then now in the land, the second thing that you have to consider, we are talking about the planning itself in general. So what you consider in the planning, so land is one thing that you have to consider. The second thing that you have to consider is the location, okay? Location of the farm. You have to locate your farm somewhere which has some qualities, okay? You have to look for some qualities that will suit the business before you begin to do some construction on the ground. So another thing that you'll have to look for is actually the general area. So the general area, you have to move around and find, are you the only farm, or you have to see if you have some few farms around you. Poultry farms should be located a little bit away from other farms, okay? Especially another poultry farm, or even dairy farms, any other farm, because poultry do not need noise, okay? So especially when you're dealing with layers, and then your other farm is located around other farms, or where there is too much noise, so they will actually not produce for you, not lay for you eggs. So they will be just struggling and disturbed by the noise, okay? So you have to locate your farm a little bit away from the noisy areas, and then away from other farms, because diseases normally come from other places, other farms, especially when you have chicken farm and then that farm is affected and it's near your farm. There is possibility that your birds can also get the diseases, or someone can bring the disease right from that farm to your farm. Another thing that you have to consider is the possibility of expansion. So you can start small, and then you have to know that in some few years or in some times in future, you'll have to think of expanding. So how best will you expand your farm? Okay, so when you talk of site selection in farm planning, we mean a lot of things: the land itself, the location itself, the surrounding water source. Another thing that you have to see, water source. So in the area where you're going to be or where you are looking for, is there a quality water that you can depend on? Because poultry farm needs a lot of water. For everything to be done, there must be a clean source of water. This is not the only option, because you can trap water from the roof. That is also clean water for poultry farm. You can drill your own well. That is also another way to get water in the farm. You can also drill your own borehole. So we have very many options when it comes to water. Okay, now we are going to see something about the layout itself. So what is it that you have to follow? What are the guidelines that you have to follow when you're going to do a layout? Okay, so layout of the farm actually is one thing that will make your farm look organized, and then it will help you actually to make your farm look organized. Another thing, it will make other parts of the farm well accessible. So this is very important part of the farm in farm planning. In farm planning, this is very important. One, you cannot put your offices, your maybe staff houses behind the poultry houses. So they should be in front of poultry houses. Poultry houses should be behind them. Why? Because this is the first place that people must access before accessing the poultry houses. So this is another thing that you have to consider. So in farm layout, we are going to talk about perimeter fence as number one. Why perimeter fence? This is security reason. For security reason, you have to be having your perimeter fence. What fence your farm away from other intruders, away from other birds or other animals to access your farm. This is not a must for everyone, because there are others who have low income financially. They are not all that good. So what happened is they can do what is called the list. They can do the list. The list is, I mean, to fence just the poultry house itself, okay, so that people do not access the poultry house. This is the list that you must do, because having a poultry house in an open location where everyone can access without any barrier is actually a high risk, especially when you're doing a commercial farming. Okay, this is a high risk for your money. So you have to do the list and fence your poultry house. But the first thing is the perimeter fence with a well prominent gate. So you have to make sure that you have your maybe your chain link, you fence your farm, and you have your gate where no one enters from other places, everyone enters from the gate. So this will be good, because people cannot come into the farm before you without your knowledge. So that is one thing. Another thing that you have to do is the poultry houses itself. So the poultry houses itself, in the layout, you have to know where they will be and how will they be and how will they look. Okay, another thing that you will have to look for the space and is this or the offices and the staff houses. So in your layout, you have to show very well where you intend to put your offices, your staff houses, maybe feed stores, and the rest of it. So if you have where the poultry houses will be, you have where the offices will be, you have where the staff houses will be, and you are not just putting them, okay, you are putting them where they should be. And if not that place, you don't see any other place which will best suit that place. Okay, So another thing would be the changing room. If you have money, you can invest in that, because it's very important, especially when it comes to the biosecurity part of it. Okay, biosecurity is one paramount thing when it comes to poultry farming. So you don't expect people to bring diseases from other farms and freely move with it into the poultry farm. Why is this changing room very important? Because you will have their equipments which are only to be used in the poultry farm, and no one uses any other equipments which are not from that room. Okay, especially I'm meaning the wears, okay, the protective wears, the gumboots, the overalls, the mask, those things. So you must have them so that visitors can come, change what they come with, and then they use what is available for farm. And then that is a way of stopping other diseases from also coming into your poultry farm. Another thing that we are going to see into this is the disinfectant. So you have to make sure that you have disinfection barrier. Okay, so this is normally at the main gate, and then at the entrance of the poultry house. So each poultry house must have what is called disinfection barrier. So before anyone enters into the poultry house, before anyone enters into the farm, they pass through these barriers, because it's very important when it comes to the biosecurity part of the farm planning. Okay, so that is one thing. Another thing that you'll have to consider is the feed and its equipment or other equipment. So like the stores, okay, the equipment stores is different, feed store is different. So you have to see what you can do about them and how you will handle them, because there are other equipments which you will have to be using them in the farm, and I don't know if you leave them to stay out or you have somewhere to put them. So equipment stores is important, as well as feed store. Feed store can actually be located just within the poultry house. Depends on your poultry house design. Okay, but when you design your poultry house to fit the feed store inside it, well and good. It is one way to sort everything at once and manage your space, especially when you don't have enough space to put all the other things differently. Another thing that you'll have to consider, I talked about it, is the clean water. So you have to make sure you have clean water source. Another thing that you have to consider is the access road. Access road is where everyone finds you. It is actually the road that people use to access your farm. I don't think you'll be alone in your farm, or people will not be looking for you. So if people are looking for you, the easier they get to your farm, yeah, good business, they will bring for you business easily. Okay, and when they think of coming to your farm, and then someone is also think of which road should I use, because the other road, I cannot use that road. That road, my vehicle cannot pass, or my word cannot. So I think the best is to have good access road, so that everyone can reach to the farm, maybe put some orders with you or take their orders easily. That is one thing that I have to that I'm thinking you should put into your mind. Another thing is, the toilets, urinals, and the rest of it. So those places are very important. You should put into consideration, not just it is a farm and then maybe only one toilet is enough, and then so depending, but it is very important, because that is sanitation. You have to make sure that you have enough of those places where everyone can get close to it as soon as possible. Another, maybe last one, is what is called the incinerator. You understand, incinerator, or maybe the sanitary pit. So the sanitary pit is this pit that you use, okay, to dispose all these other things which are actually not good. So maybe used needles and plastics, those other things, you have to put them in one place. Okay, you sort them and put them in one place. This is for environmental part of it. You keep your environment clean. This is your farm. No one loves it more than you. You have to keep your farm well. So that is when it comes to layout. Now one last thing that now I will have to tackle in the layout is the setup of your farm. Now, how is it? One thing that I talked about is that your offices and the feed stores, the staff houses, the water tank, the boreholes, they come first. Then the real structures for the chicken house comes afterward in the second setup. So that is what you have to consider. Now, when it comes to the chicken house setup, you have to consider a minimum of 20 meters between the houses, from one house to the next. You have to consider along their length, you have to consider a minimum of 20 meters, and then along their width, maybe from one to the next, in case you have something like 1, 2, 3, 4. So in between one to another, you have to make sure you have minimum of 20, and from this side to the width, you have to have a minimum of 10. That will be highly recommended. And now we look for one thing that also you have to know very well is how do you now come to the real construction of your poultry house. Now, what are the qualities of a good poultry house? One is the aeration. Very important. When you are going to think about poultry house, think about the aeration. When you're going to think about poultry house, just think about the aeration. Why? Because it's actually what makes this house actually do its job. Why? When you have too much ammonia in the house and the air is not circulating, believe me, you will have problem. Okay, that is why aeration is very important, because in the poultry house there's always ammonia, which is not good for the birds, so it has to find its way out, and somehow it is the house become dusty when you like changing the litters, so the house become very dusty, and also it has to move out. So aeration is very important, and when you don't have good aeration in the house, you will always have problem with diseases, because the air is not circulating freely. So this is what make the construction of the house to be one of the things that you have to be very careful. Now, when you're constructing the poultry house, this is the one thing that when I get to the field, I will show you from the field. You have to have a minimum of 1 meter wall from the ground, 1 meter. The rest of it up to roofing is just nothing but wire mesh. So wire mesh gives that ground for aeration, where air can pass through freely. So you build everything, concrete walls or bricks. So this is not good. It's not a good poultry house, because air cannot pass through inside and outside easily, and maybe you have some small ventilation, so not good. Ventilation very important. Another thing that we have to consider when it comes to aeration is something called the breathing roof. Breathing roof is this roof that lay on another roof. So it's like when you're constructing, and then on top of the building, along the line, the edge, there is some opening also, which is covered with another roof. So this helps also in the circulation of the air, because when this cold air, this dense air enters from the wire mesh inside the poultry house, it can heat up and it become less dense, so it has to find a way out, so it become light, then it can escape from up. So from up also some air fresh air can enter in. So this is very important, the breathing roof. I will have to see if I can show you what it means. The whole poultry house from down to up, at least a minimum of 2.5 meters before roofing, then you think of roofing. This will give you a very good poultry house, a very good space above. So this is very important. When you are thinking about layers, I can recommend a house of not less than 7 meters width and 12 meters length. That is enough for 500 layers. Okay, so I will come specifically for different breeds, and then their house requirement and the space maybe in the next video, and then I give you what is recommended. For now, let me stop here, guys. Until we meet again in the next video, consider liking, subscribe for those who have not subscribed, and then hit the notification bell so that you get notified in the next upload. Bye bye.